Hello, boys, girls, theys, and thems. Welcome back to the 53rd episode of whatever the fuck it is that we're doing. Here to talk about adventurism and how it's no good for you. Um, Hello, Emily. Welcome. How's everybody doing? How you guys?
I'm doing okay. Had a
Good,
pretty good
good.
day.
About Nico yourself?
I mean, you know the sitch. I'm okay. I'm better now, I guess.
That's good.
Kinda.
That's good. Yes, more CEOs, but differently, and we'll get to that. What that exactly means. I'm gonna pretend I know what this means. Anywho's, yeah. So today we want to talk about adventurism, what it means, what it doesn't mean, its historical context. Give a little update on the United Healthcare situation. Talk about a TikTok video I found that I disagree with in terms of the analysis of Luigi Magione and all that. So, let's just kind of jump into it. So here we go. What do I got first on the agenda? Right. So adventurism. So adventurism is the concept of like it's in the word, right? It's going on an adventure. It's doing something for excitement, for the lust of the moment, of power in some senses, of going out and doing something sort of impulsively. So like what I was saying in the last episode, while the adventurism that took place was funny in a lot of ways and not a bad thing, adventurism itself as a whole is not a viable tactic. And that's something that Marxists, Leninists, and communists have to understand. And they have to be very tactical and strategic in the decisions that they make. And when someone goes ahead and does adventurism, like we'll give a few examples, or what happened, 2.5 or a week and a half ago, there's always going to be consequences when it comes to whether it's a strategic situation or not, right? But when it's somebody, particularly somebody who's not aligned necessarily with the left, going off and doing adventurism, while it's in this case a net positive for the world, it doesn't address and it doesn't stop the machine. It doesn't one CEO doesn't destroy white supremacy, doesn't destroy patriarchy, it doesn't destroy imperialism. So these are things that we definitely we have to look out for. So Lenin and the gang, they all wrote about this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, Trotsky wrote a lot of stuff about it, but I guess that was before he kind of went bunzo bananas before he did his own adventurism. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in terms of updates of the what United Healthcare is saying, and then we'll get a little bit more into the theory of it all. Give me 1 second, gang. So United Healthcare, we understand people's frustration with the healthcare system. The head of United Healthcare's parent company acknowledged Friday the American healthcare system is flawed, and he pledged his company would help fix it. The promise comes several days after a man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson said he was motivated by hatred of the system, a hatred apparently shared by many people. That's funny. I didn't even notice that was the line here. Apparently hated by many people who have taken to social media in the days since December 4th's killing. While United Healthcare and its employees continue to grapple with grief over the loss of a brilliant, kind man, Andrew Whitty, who is a Brit, Major L, Free Ireland, we also are struggling to make sense of this unconscionable act and vitriol that has been directed at our colleagues who have been barraged by threats. And yet, wrote Whitty, the CEO of United Health Group, we know the health system does not work as well as it should. We understand people's frustration. So I don't think I need to make it clear that they don't understand people's frustrations. Not at all. These are people who are disconnected from the reality of the proletariat. There may be some of these people who maybe genuinely think they understand, but they don't. Hey, hello, Angry. A singular incident that we can post hoc extract any benefits possible. Correct. Yeah, there are avenues that we can try to go down with this, which we'll get into. Anyway, where was I? Here we go. Times of shooting allegedly by Luigi Mangione, who reportedly mentioned United Healthcare in his writings, found his possession when he was arrested, which to me doesn't sound correct. Set off a barrage of angry posts directed at healthcare insurers, gatekeepers of the country's 4.5 trillion healthcare system. People posted their stories about denials for coverage, delays in care, and other negative reactions within the health insurers. Many of those posts were directed at United Healthcare, one of the nation's largest insurance companies. We've been hearing for years now from people who have been so frustrated because of denials and delays of care. This was an opportunity for people to vent and take out their anger against someone who just became known to them all of a sudden. Wendell Powder, former Cigna executive who became a whistleblower against the health insurance industry. The anger, Porter said, is sadly misplaced. Again, yes, but no. It's misplaced in the Marxist sense. It's not misplaced in the sense of a proletariat who doesn't really know what they're doing, right? Who doesn't, who thinks that they can blame people who are on the right, people who are on the center right, the people who have been talking in what's his name, Ben Shapiro's comment sections and all that. Like, those are the kind of people who have the misplaced anger because they think it comes down to an individualistic situation. By the way, feel free to interrupt me. You guys know that I'm a professional yapper at this point.
I wanted to make one comment on that. Like the flags at half mast is just crazy to me. Plus, that's not how you half mast a flag. But whatever. Okay, sorry. That was.
I don't even think I looked at the flag all that much. But that's funny.
Right.
Yes, we're talking about adventurism here. We took your idea and stole it like the real commies that we are.
Right.
No, appreciate it, but no, because it needs to be addressed. So who's Andrew Whitty? Who is this Brit, right? So a leaked video came out where to contrast the words that he just said in that article, he's talking about how, like, we understand, we're going to fix the issues, but a video leaked from an internal conference that we're going to show here real quick. And just pay attention to what they say. And obviously, guys, let me know if the audio is playing correctly.
I'm sure everybody has been disturbed by the amount of negative and, in many cases, vitriolic media and commentary that has been produced over the last few days, particularly in the social media environment. And I want to reassure you of a few things. Firstly, we are going to continue to make sure that we put patients, consumers, and members first.
They won't.
As we always have done.
Nope.
The mission of this company is truly to make sure that we help the system improve by helping the experience for individuals get better and better. There was nobody who did more to try and advance that mission than Brian Thompson. And there are very few people in the history of the US healthcare industry who...
First off, that's cap, because when this dude died, they went ahead with their meeting anyway, with their bagels and coffee and all.
Positive effect on American healthcare than Brian. And we are going to make sure that we not only acknowledge and honor that legacy of Brian, but we will continue it. Our role is a critical role, and we make sure that care is safe, appropriate, and is delivered when people need it. And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole...
What's unnecessary care? Who are these corporations to tell you what is unnecessary care?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to maybe somebody having a psychiatric issue and they think, like, I need my arms cut off because they're itchy, that's unnecessary care. But that's not what they're talking about. What they're talking about is, are you healthy enough to continue working, to continue being part of the productive forces for us, not for you? Mm-hmm. That's unnecessary care. I mean, you two alone on the panel have had experiences where you try to get care, you try to get coverage, and you don't, or you try to get medications and you're denied. I'm sure, we got people in the comment section here right now. We've talked about it last week. You guys have been denied care. So, like, how the hell are these people anybody to tell you if you are deserving of care? That makes zero sense. This person just straight
I
up
have
with their go ahead.
I have doctors that, they're the ones that tell me what is good for my care. And
Mhm.
like, why are they being denied? Like, they go through school, they learn this stuff. I'm not saying, like, being a chronically ill person, I'm not saying I am 100 with doctors ever, but you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
no insurance should. And can I just mention too the fact that he's British and he's making money off of the American healthcare system?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a very colonizer type of attitude. Let's look at the comments real quick. Let's see. To help the system grow by collecting even more profits next quarter. Exactly. Beautiful panel. Not as beautiful unless you were up here. Their roles are
Yeah.
unnecessary in the system. Yep, 100%. As you know, Emily, we share the same profession. I'm worried for Luigi whether or not he's the adjuster. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get the episode too derailed, but I at this point genuinely don't have a reason to believe that that is the person who took that action that day. Um, they're gonna, yes, Lisa, they're gonna pull all the stops, and their role is no different than that of a landlord. Exactly, it's ownership
Mhm.
of you as a complete person. In many ways, it's a new kind of slavery, or I shouldn't even say new because this system isn't really that new. At the end of the day, your quality of life is unnecessary care for a corporation's perspective. Fuck your pay meds, your quality of care. We got to make money. Um, yeah, no, exactly. But let's continue with the video.
System too complex and ultimately unsustainable. So we're going to continue to make that case. We will continue to do the work we do. And I have never been more proud of this company and our colleagues and what this company does on behalf of people in need across the country.
I just want to
tune out
Go ahead.
that critical.
I just want to remind people that, what his company has done is the worst rate of denials, 32% out of all the other companies, and was the automated system, the AI, that just 90% of the denials were wrong.
Mhm.
So I just
Right.
want to point that out.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is not this is a system that just I don't know how else to put it, is not here to help you. Anyway, let's finish out the video.
That we're hearing right now. It does not reflect reality. It is simply a sign of an era in which we live. What we must do is focus on what we know to be true. And what we know to be true is that the health system needs a company like United Health Group, and it needs people like Brian within it.
Boo! Never listen to British people.
No.
Never.
Yeah, it just what a horrible group of people, group of ghouls, and people are reacting to this. You know what I mean? And that's why I think it is so important to talk about adventurism today, and why we need to be cautious about certain moves. Hello, Bruce Crest. Glad you could join us. British instantly disregarded. Exactly. All right. So, in other news, so last week, a woman, I have her last name here, and Brianna Boston.
Austin.
So, a woman in Florida, was talking to her insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she became very, very frustrated, reasonably so, because her claims are being denied. And on the phone, she told the representative, deny, defend, dispose. You people are next. And she hung up. Now, while I understand the anger and I understand the sentiment, unfortunately, the corporation decided that they were going to call the police on her, and they did, and she was arrested. She's looking at $100,000 bond. She's looking at 15 years in prison for inciting terrorism, for threatening to commit mass murder. You're seeing in live 4K the police state defending capitalism. Remember, police are there to protect private property and the arbiters of capital. They're not there to protect you. So I got a video I want to show you guys. Let's see what here. The comments are buzzing today. Look at the anarchy movement in the days of Sanko and Vassetti. Yep, exactly. The person gave them too much evidence there. I agree. I hope she gets decent legal counsel and they throw it out. I hope so, Emily, but I do think I mean, you know how patriarchy goes. I do think they're gonna make this person an example. I think they're gonna make Luigi an example as well. But anyway, let me.
I think with that Woody guy bringing up too that all these people are getting these threats now, and he kind of alluded also on calls, but he was alluding to the pictures they put up, the wanted pictures and stuff like that. But like all these anyone calling in, like I do that, like I was gonna say my husband has a medicine that he was taking for years and years and years, and now the insurance doesn't want to cover it anymore. And
Right.
and like he's like, I can't even, like, I'm so angry, like I have to wait till I calm down to call him now, because what if I say something? You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
just gonna be
Exactly. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think it's just a prime example of, I mean, especially considering where I'm at, I'm in a major metro area, Atlanta. When people get desperate, the police state's not afraid to throw things like RICO charges. They do not care how desperate you are. They want you to be that desperate so you make that singular mistake so they can punish you for it.
Mhm.
Just straight up.
Exactly. All right, let's look at the video. Oop, wrong button.
Conditions to protect the community.
With her head in her hands, Brianna Boston learned she would be held in jail on $100,000 bond. The Polk County judge adding the bond was appropriate given the, quote, status of our country.
It's not like she's a child. She's 42 years old, so we're not dealing with a child here. She should certainly know better.
Lakeland Police Chief Sam Taylor says his department was contacted by the FBI Tuesday. Authorities say in a recorded phone call about a denied insurance claim, Boston told a Blue Cross Blue Shield employee, quote, delay, deny, depose. You people are next, end quote. Murder scene in New York City.
We will take this very seriously and we will put you in jail if you do something like this. It is not a joke.
According to Boston's affidavit, the mother of 3 told police she did not own firearms and was not a danger to anyone. But she added, healthcare companies played games and deserved karma because they are evil.
Yeah.
Stuck to our guns on that one. But she's a mother of 3 too. Like, I mean, you're holding her on this huge bond. She's a mother of 3. Where is she going?
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's so it's just so goddamn stupid the way that, like, they're gonna throw this woman in jail who has children. And here's the thing too, right? So here's more details I just thought of, because I don't know the background of this woman. Is she a single mom? Are these kids gonna go into the system now? Like, this has descending consequences, when it comes to making an example of this woman. Let's see. Absolutely, I feel they push for fun, daring us to strike. It's a fun game for them. We got to start watching what they say. This is so sad. Hello, good evening, was it mental weather? Also, not to mention, Adventurism undermines the proletariat mass movement, and people are using this way to bash the left, particularly communists. Marxists not doing shit. That I'm about to talk about, actually. She didn't make a direct threat, in my opinion. They probably yanked her kids into foster too. Typical. Terrible.
It's a meme threat.
So,
it's a meme.
The lady is so big, she spoke the truth, and they hate it. Remember, revolution is only as close as you want it to be. I don't really agree with that. It's really sad. Used to be a threat had to be credible. Yeah, exactly. But now, when it comes to the threatening capital, I mean, the corporation is threatening you, right? When they're like, well, we're not going to pay for your life-saving medications, so get fucked. But because they're corporations, then they're valued more than human beings. They'll make you an example. So let's talk a little bit about Luigi real quick. So again, this is with the assumption that Luigi is the guy, right? When I personally don't think that. So the reason why I don't think that is because a few days or a week or so after the the alleged attack perpetrated by Luigi. Luigi was found in Pennsylvania eating in a McDonald's, and a McDonald's worker called the police to have this person arrested. The police made contact with Luigi, basically asked him what he was doing, whatever. They had an exchange. They arrested Luigi. Upon arresting Luigi, it was discovered that he had the murder weapon on him, which doesn't make sense to me, and his manifesto on him, which doesn't make sense to me. Because how did this guy go from, and you can watch our last episode, we literally show videos of it. How does this guy go from being such a sleuth and like trolling the police, have monopoly money in his bag and whatever, to, police are saying he's a professional, he knows what he's doing, yada, yada, to just this guy chilling in public, waiting to get caught. And not only that, but having the gun on him and having his documents on him. Who the hell carries their manifesto with them? Like, what are you talking about? That does not make sense to me. And even when when they're doing the perp walk, he's outrightly saying, like, wasn't me, dog. Like, no, they planted evidence on me. Now, if you look at the actual manifesto, right? It's very center right wing kind of stuff. It's, these CEOs are bad, and I do respect America, but this is not the American way. Very
Dear feds.
like dear feds. Yeah, like it's not very based, it's very surface level kind of Ted Kaczynski-esque, not in the sense of like wanting to do Ted Kaczynski stuff, but like he didn't go deeper. You know what I mean? He's still very much on the surface level of what the actual problems are, which again are white supremacy, imperialism, patriarchy, capitalism, etc.
Can I just add that Ted actually had an ideology too, though? He was like, he was libertarian, right? He was, or something akin to that. Like he had ideology, and this guy doesn't seem like he has any ideology either. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Sorry, I was getting distracted by the comments here while you were talking, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. That the CIA and the FBI also 100% frame people. I mean, hello. I mean, they've taken out presidents, for fuck's sakes. So like, what do you mean they wouldn't do this? There are drones right now flying around in the East United States, and the government is like, meh, we're not worried. But also they're Iranian drones. Dog, we shot down a balloon 2 years ago with the might of the U.S. Air Force. You're gonna tell me that that's not like, the government doing whatever the fuck is that they're doing? Like, come on, it's not conspiracy thinking. It's just extrapolate the thought a little bit more, right? So anyway, Luigi. So, he likes Joe Rogan, he likes Elon Musk, that kind of stuff. Like if this is his manifesto, bro missed the point, right?
Yeah.
I find it interesting because in the manifesto he says that he was referring to these people, these parasites deserve it, but he only killed one person allegedly. And the YouTube videos that were coming up turned out to be fake. If you look at the metadata and you look at those channels were, we were used to be something else. So like, it's just people, getting in on the fun, basically making it into like a game, basically. I don't think it's him. I really don't.
I don't think it is.
But
I think
anyway,
also like they never showed they never showed like a picture of the actual manifesto. It's just been typed in.
Right.
Which is weird to me too. Like they would say, this is the evidence. This was what was on them. This piece of paper.
Right. So going into another video I want to show before I hand it off. So where do we stand as Marxist Leninists? Where do we stand with what he did? Right. Like I said, the action itself, while is sure, this is probably a guy who did in fact deserve what he got. but it didn't change anything. It puts in a new CEO eager to take the spot to make, bigger profits next quarter, who just showed, as I just showed you guys in a video, talks about how they're going to keep doing what they're doing. It didn't change anything. Now the New York State governor is meeting with 175 corporate representatives in order to talk about corporate security.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yes, I'm not saying that, well, don't do anything ever because there always will be consequences. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is solo adventurism that's not backed by an ideology, that is not strategically planned, may have, and is right now, have more consequences for the proletariat than people are expecting. Like Nico was saying last episode, this may lead to even more gun legislation, especially in New York City, where it's almost impossible to have a handgun. Anyway, I digress. So I see a lot of videos of the left, of communists right now, basically getting upset when we're criticizing, the broader actions. And I just kind of want to show this video real quick, and I want to talk about it real fast. So here we go.
The richest farmer in the city. He ain't no leftist. He's not a leftist. He's barely even a commie. He comes from a rich family, went to an Ivy League school, and listened to a Joe Rogan episode one time. He's not somebody to follow. Castro, son of the billionaire Castro, the one that went to law school. Shay, the one with the medical degree. What the hell do they know about helping the working class? Now, really? His dad was the richest farmer in the city. He ain't no commie. He's not going to amount to anything. This isn't a communist revolution. Lenin went to law school, and Stalin was part of a seminary. They're not commie. Uncle Ho knows French better than he knows Vietnamese. What kind of rice paddy farmer would relate to a guy who had overseas schooling? I bet he surrenders to America day one. They hate gay people. What kind of communist party has a leader who's literally related to monarchy? Open your eyes. Real communists complain and do nothing.
Can I say the whole thing is kind of weird that he says that he knows French? That's colonialism,
Right.
I just caught
That's
that.
why the three of us speak English. it's colonialism. That's why I speak Spanish. It's colonialism. Like, what do you mean, dog? Like, wow, the people of the colonized area speak the language of the colonizer. People in Algeria spoke French. Oh, what are you talking about? Like, dog, that's so goofy, bro. But so why do I have a problem with that video? Because Luigi is not a communist. Full stop. If this manifesto is to be believed, he is not a communist. Like I said, if you look at the words that they are saying, the evidence, not extrapolation, we're looking at materialism, right? If we are to believe that this manifesto is Luigi's, there is nothing in that is indicative or indicative of him being a communist. Because, again, I talked about this in the last episode. When conditions get worse, the right wing also know it's corporations, it's crony capitalism, it's CEOs, it's religious minorities, it's brown people. So human beings tend to have a natural inclination, because we're not stupid, that shit's fucked up, right? So people can see on the surface what the problem is, but without that Marxist analysis, you're not going to have that follow through. That's what I've been saying. So just because, if this is Luigi's words, which I don't think it is, but if it is, just because he is saying, yeah, we should kill the CEO, does not make him a leftist and does not make him a communist. And saying you're a communist doesn't make you a communist. I've been saying this since day one. It's your actions, it's your participation in it's your sympathy for communist movements, for political vanguards, your participation in political communist organizing. It does not mean that you, by default, just because you have some vague left tendencies or you don't like CEOs, doesn't mean that you're a communist. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? So particularly when it comes to this argument, right, where that creator mentions Fidel, right? Because I saw some comments that were sent to me where the creator was arguing with somebody, friend of the show, who was basically like, yeah, I mean, but the problem with your video is that all these people you just listed were communists. They studied Marxism. They participated in revolutionary actions. So like that doesn't mean like Luigi by default is a communist. So the creator goes on to basically be like, yeah, well, Fidel wasn't a communist until, after revolution. So I want to push back on this narrative, right? Because Fidel was studying communism and Marxism before 1949. And we actually talked about this in our re-education video about Juan Ameda, when Juan met Fidel and Raul. Like, I think people take that video of Castro talking about like we basically had a socialist revolution under the Americans' noses. It's not like they were just like, okay, we won. Also, by the way, we're communists. Like, sure, maybe a majority of the movement for the liberation of Cuba wasn't, outrightly Marxist, but it was sympathetic to Marxism. It's the same thing with the Bolshevik revolution, right? So, like, but Juan Ameda, as an example, right? His own words, and there's a good video on it. It's all in Spanish, where he's talking about where he met Fidel, and he's talking about how Fidel had books with him, about Lenin, how he talked about how beautiful the Soviet Union was. So like Fidel was a communist. So don't go about on this argument that, well, also he just like surprised Pikachu face, I'm a communist. That's not what happened. So Luigi is not a communist, just that through and through. You guys got any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think it's, oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think it's really important to note, like, when you're talking about communism, like, imperialism and colonialization are really important aspects of what we fight against. And, you see these supposed, like, writings, and they're very pro-American. It's like there's just that frustration of CEOs, and it's like you're sitting here and you're saying you're a leftist. You should realize that anyone who's spouting this kind of information while also being like pro-USA in any kind of manner has not really analyzed the material conditions, like the core of the issues. So it's like you have to be aware of that. And like if you're saying you're a communist and trying to state that this is some kind of potentially revolutionary figure, like what are you talking about? You need to learn more.
Yeah, exactly. W Nico, as always. Do you want to talk a little bit about propaganda of the deed, and then we'll hand it off to Lumpy?
Yeah, no, I would love to talk about propaganda of the deed. Basically, this is probably it's prevalent at the moment because I'm seeing it a lot with leftists talking about what Luigi supposedly did. Because propaganda of the deed is an adventurous tactic where basically the idea is kind of utopian, idealist, where there's one excitable event that happens that causes class consciousness to where people start the revolution. But in reality, we know that these excitable events can cause more harm than good, and that revolution doesn't happen until like the material conditions are met, until we have an organization, a vanguard behind us in which to start the revolution. It completely disregards like collective effort, organizing, strategy, when it focuses on individualism. And as communists, we should be very aware when we start to praise people like this that we are praising individualism, which goes directly against what being a communist is.
No, you're absolutely right. And I feel like, and that's the whole thing, like, like say he did this over him having his own issue with the healthcare system. That's ego. That's his own ego. You know what I mean? He's not, he's talking about how evil CEOs are, but he's, doing it, selfishly too. Like if that's the case, you know what I mean? He's not, it's not changing things for everybody, especially just one-offing one person is not going to change the system. So, yeah. So, I was gonna just get into. I wanted to talk a little bit about some historical stuff on adventurism in, the propaganda of the deed and stuff like that. So basically, as we know, like Marxism is, unity with theory and practice. You know what I mean? Like it has to be a balance of theory and practice, and you need to understand the world, so you need, through we do this through like dialectical and historical materialism. We look at the world, and you can't change the world until you understand what has to be changed, what actually has to be changed. So I was gonna start this off yeah, was that Wednesday when I found out the news, did I have a huge smile on my face? Sure. It was, like I was really hurt by the our healthcare system in the United States. I've been very hurt by it. So yeah, that was great. But I also, I know that these acts of adventurism, because I study especially labor history, I know they don't really go by, like, the propaganda by the deed is not a good theory, because it does not spark class consciousness, because that's what you need, is class consciousness. It sparks a lot of people having bad feelings towards CEOs and them being happy about it. Yeah, sure. It could be used. I'd say, like, I'm not 100% like gonna say that it doesn't do anything for class consciousness, because it could be used to now people are starting to think, so now we all need to jump on it and educate people. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
that would be our job to do now. But it doesn't make these people have I mean, as we know, class consciousness is something we all have to achieve at once. So no one actually has class consciousness, but it doesn't mean that they understand that. You know what I mean? And without having that, without having the theory behind the practice, you're not getting there. So basically, I'm just gonna start like 1877. That was the Great Railroad Strike. I'm bringing this up because this is kind of the turning point. This is where our socialism, our German socialists, the ones that were actually looking into Marxism from, like 1848 with the Communist Manifesto and other writings and stuff like that. They did a turning point. I'm going to talk about the Parsons, who are not Germans. They were American. Lucy was actually born in slavery and stuff like that. But Lucy has a good piece, because she talks about it. After the Great Railroad Strike is where they brought out the Gatling guns. This is where they declared war on the labor movement. They declared war on it. Before communism or socialism was even that big in this country, they're declaring war on it. You can look through the media, you can look through all that. And all they do is, talk about, how bad like it's always like in this time, like in the 1850s and before the Civil War, it was like the German socialists and how bad they were, because it was after their revolution in 48 when they started moving over here. So this is where, like, a lot of the Marxism came into our country. And so in 1877, this turned so many of those socialists into anarchists. They got so angry. They didn't use their theory. They didn't use that. They were angry. And Lucy Parsons writes about this. And she writes after the railroad strike, her last line, and it was something like, you all need to take up bomb making. You all need to learn how to make a bomb, right? So, this goes into 86, where you're in the Haymarket Square in Chicago. May 1st, 80,000 people marching down the street, like all laborers, workers, having their little socialist signs, having their little, labor union signs. It was like a glorious sight. This is why the internationally Labor Day is on May 1st. It was because of this May 1st march in Chicago. And 2 days after that, because the capitalists were so mad about this, 3 workers are killed. at the McCormick Harvester. That's on the 3rd. On the 4th, they're like, all right, they just, killed some of us. Let's meet, let's talk, come prepared, just have weapons on you if you have to. You know what I mean? Like, just come prepared. So that was what the poster came out and stuff. So this was all it was all a setup. We don't know who threw the bomb. It was near the end. There was only a couple of hundred people left. This whole thing was happening at night too, after work hours. They weren't striking. I learned a lot on this too. Like, some of these strikes weren't happening during work hours. They were like happening after, after they did their work. The workers were staying and striking or having these meetings in like places like the square or something like that. And so the bomb goes off, it kills a couple of cops, then, it kills the cops start shooting and kill a couple of the bystanders and stuff like that. And it ends up with, as we know, like, well, 5 of them are sentenced to death. One dies in prison with a bomb he puts in his mouth and lets it go off. And the other 4 are executed, right? So they used Lucy writing that against her husband. They used the fact that she wrote, that we all have to learn this, that like using that. So that was a big reason why he wasn't even there. They weren't even in the square. Yeah. But it was because of her writing that played a big part into why, he was executed. And it goes after that. What gets harmed was there. I don't know how much everyone knows about the Knights of Labor, but that was more like if you know about the IWW, the Knights of Labor were kind of like a precursor to that. The Knights of Labor was a union that, included women, included people of color. It was, you could be any job, any worker could join. So immediately following what happens in Haymarket Square is when Gompers comes out and creates the AFL. And so that hurt our labor movement. Like the type of unions, those trade unions that he wanted just for skilled workers. So that meant like 95 to 98% of them were white men. They had some women only because like the garment industry was supposedly skilled, the sewing was skilled and stuff. So, I think they had a bend for that because it was a skill, and very few people of color in that union. So that union only served certain people, so that, so this whole labor movement was hurt, because of this bomb being thrown. They create laws. They were kind of creative in creating some laws where, there were laws that were created to hurt like monopolies and stuff like that. But no, it kind of just, it ended up hurting, the unions and the workers and stuff like that, because they were using the antitrust law against the unions, so they couldn't go on strike because you're hurting commerce. And that was in the antitrust. You hurt commerce, it's illegal to hurt commerce. Right. So that like they created, so there was all these other laws. You can go into like, as like McKinley assassination is Leon. I'm not going to say his last name right. I know how to say it, but I'm not going to say it right. It's like Sholgosh or something like that. And so he, he commits this act, and then you get the Anti-Anarchist Act of 1901 or 2, and that doesn't just hurt anarchists. That was hurting anyone, a unionist, a communist, or, they use these laws how they want to. They label you how they want to.
I mean, let's not forget, not to interrupt, but literally like 2 days after this guy died, the House passed a bill about allowing the Victims of Communist Foundation to write American education in terms of anti-communism for grade school children. Yeah, that's not a coincidence. No, it's not a coincidence. And for those who don't know, the victims of the victims of communism foundation is a foundation that was set up to specifically make anti-communist propaganda, and these are the people who have aided in the 100 million figure of the so-called victims of communism, most of those being Nazis. And most of those also being people who might have been born in the Soviet Union if basically World War II didn't happen, where the Soviet Union lost 27 million people, accounted for million people who died. So like these are the people who are intentionally spreading anti-communist propaganda because they're threatened by communism. But go ahead.
No, so like basically like all these laws, like they'll create these laws, and so it's I saw someone in the server. I think it was actually Crazy 101 that said like it's like Lenin thought it was sure it's fun. It's fun, like you don't like those people, so like hey, whatever, but it's not helping the movement. It just doesn't help the movement. Like I was gonna get into a little bit about like Luigi Galliani and stuff like that, but I mean, it's all the same stuff. It just plays out, and all these laws come out, and it ends up hurting like any progress that we could have done educationally and stuff like that. And when they do, like it hurts like the media, like so those normies.
I mean, like,
listen.
listen. Obviously, this whole thing that we're doing here on this channel, on this server, this is all LARP. None of us mean any of this. When I definitely don't mean what I'm about to say. But violence that's perpetrated by the left, by communist and vanguard organizations, has to be all-encompassing and total in their seizure of assets. You have to do something that, if they even pass legislation, doesn't matter because it no longer is applicable to you. But when legislation is being passed, it's targeting the proletariat as a whole, and you do not have the means to protect those people, then you are doing harm. Example, going back to gun legislation. If gun legislation, which is already abysmal in New York, goes through, this is going to make organizing in places like New York even more difficult because you can't organize with, just picket fences and TikTok videos. There's more to that, but that's an outside conversation. But obviously, I did not mean any of that. That was just a jokey joke, Minecraft, whatever. Let's see here what we got here. As a Machiavellian, this debate is very interesting for me. Okay, mental. I'm not sure what that means, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I don't care for Machiavelli, but I mean, by all power to you. We're Marxists if you haven't figured that one out. As a Machiavellian, I think sociopathy is required to be in a position of leadership.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted. All right. You want me to read from that article to close us out, or from that piece from Lenin?
Yeah. So there was there's a couple of pieces that Lenin did. There's the one from 1902, which is a little longer, which is Revolutionary Adventurism, which you all should read and understand. But this one is from later on, 1914, and is called Adventurism.
All right, so let me get that up here.
Can I just mention one thing? Can I mention one thing before you start reading? Is I just wanted to mention. Huh?
I know. I can stop in mid-sentence. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to mention that you got to understand that Lenin, like Adventurism, played a big part in Lenin. His older brother was part of the Narodniks and was executed for a plot against Tsar Alexander III, which was not the Tsar that Lenin was dealing with, but the Tsar right before him. So I just wanted to bring that
up. I'm sorry. This I have to address this. They asked, what is a Machiavellian? Person who lacks empathy, cynical to other human beings, misanthropic, using cunning tactics to gain what they want without regard for others. Bro, you're doing the meme where you're in the corner of the party and you're like, they don't know that I'm a Machiavellian. I don't like other people. You're a bozo. All right. Anyway, We are living in stormy times when Russia history is marching on with 7 league strides, and every year, sometimes significant more than decades of tranquility. Results of the half century of the post-reform period are being summed up, and the cornerstone is being laid for social and political damn, dyslexia is going crazy. I'm just moving on, which will determine the fate of the entire country for many, many years to come. The revolutionary movement continues to grow with amazing rapidity, and our trends are ripening and withering uncommonly fast. Trends firmly rooted in the class of such a rapidly developed capitalist country as Russia almost immediately reach their own level and feel their way to their classes they are related to. An example of the evolution of Mr. Struve, from whom the revolutionary workers proposed to tear the mask of a Marxist only 1.5 years ago, who has now himself come forward without this mask as the leader or servant of the liberal landlords, people who take pride in their earthiness and their sober judgment. On the other hand, trends expressing only the traditional instability of views held by the intermediate and indefinite sections of the intelligentsia try to substitute noisy declarations for some French word with definite classes. Declarations which are all the noisier and louder the thunder of events, at least we make an infernal noise. Such is the slogan of many revolutionary-minded individuals who have been caught up in the maelstrom of events, who have neither theoretical principles nor the social roots. So this last sentence it's basically what I'm talking about in terms of that TikTok video where it's like, well, at least he did something. Sure. But if you don't have these Marxist roots, then you are not going to be doing anything that is wholeheartedly for the proletariat.
But that's also like the that was another thing under that video, like a lot. Oh, you can tell he's not a communist because he does something like. So this is a communist putting out this video, and then there's hurtful comments about communists under that video. Do you know what I'm saying? When people were saying that, so like that, like what is it helping trying to say, oh, he could lead a revolution or something like that means that you don't understand what adventurism is. Also, Ivan's reading the first piece. He's reading the longer piece and not the one.
Damn.
So vice versa. You can read both of them, but he'll go ahead.
Well, anyway, we probably won't read the whole thing because it's a bit. We'll read the first section at least. It is to these noisy trends that the socialist revolutionaries whose economy is emerging from and more clearly also belong, and is in high time for the proletariat to have a better look. I'm not going to keep reading this word, and form a clear idea of real nature of these people who seek the proletariat's friendship all more persistently. The more palpable it became to them, they cannot exist as a separate trend without close ties with the truly revolutionary class of society. 3 circumstances have served most to disclose the true face of the socialist revolutionaries. These are the first, the split between the revolutionary social democrats and the opportunists, who are raising their heads under the banner of the criticism of Marxism. Secondary, Belmanov's assassination in Sipiang and the new swing towards terrorism is the sentiments of some revolutionaries. Thirdly, and mainly, the latest movement along the peasantry, which is compelled such that a custom is to sit between 2 stools and have no program whether to come out post factum, with some semblance of a program. We shall proceed to examine these 3 circumstances with the reservation that in a newspaper article, it is possible to give only a brief outline of the main points in the argument that we shall in all likelihood return to the subject and expound in greater detail in a magazine article or in a pamphlet. Bro basically said, if you want more details, check out my YouTube channel instead of read my TikTok.
Like and follow.
Hit that bell. It was only in number 2 of Vitnek Ruski Revolucji that the socialist revolutionaries finally decided to come out with a theoretical statement of principle in an unassigned editorial headed The World Progress and the Crisis of Socialism. We strongly recommend this article to all who want to get a clear idea of utter principledness and the vacillation in matters of theory. Check out my other video, as well as the art of concealing this behind a spade of rhetoric. The entire content of this highly noteworthy article may be expressed in few words. Socialism has grown into a world force. Socialism equals Marxism. It is now splitting as a result of the war and the revolutionaries, the orthodox, against the opportunists, the critics. We, socialist revolutionaries, of course, have never sympathized with opportunism, but we are overjoyed because of the criticism which has freed us from a dogma. We, too, are working for a revision of this dogma, and although we have yet nothing at all to show by the way of criticism, except bourgeois opportunist criticism, Although we have yet revised absolutely nothing, it is nevertheless the freedom from theory which redounds to our credit. The redounds to our credit all more because, as people free of theory, we stand firmly for general unity and vehemently condemn all theoretical disputes over principles. A serious revolutionaries organization, Vesny Ruskovi Revoluski, assumes us all in all seriousness will give up trying to settle disputed questions of social theory, which always led to a disunity of this, of course, should not hinder theoreticians from seeking their solution, or more outspokenly, let the writers do the writing and let the readers do the reading. And in the meantime, while they are busy buying themselves, we will rejoice at the blank left behind. Basically, what Big Dog is saying is, there's when it comes to like the wow, goddamn. let me reel it back. When it comes to people doing adventurism versus people who are on the left, he is offering a mild criticism that like there's no point going back and forth having like these conversations of things that have already been put down. Like, we don't need to keep talking about this. Like, we already know, like, within your circles, this is different because this is an educational program, right? But when it comes to like you and your cadre or whatever, you shouldn't be having again these debates over and over and over again about should we do adventurism. You should already be principled enough as is. Let's keep going. There is no need, of course, to engage in a serious analysis of this theory of deviations from socialism in the event of disputes proper. In our opinion, the crisis of socialism makes it incumbent upon any and the least serious socialists to devote redoubled attention to the theory, to adopt more resolutely a strictly definite stand, to draw a sharpener line of demarcations between themselves and wavering and unreliable elements. In the opinion of the socialist revolutionaries, however, if such things as confusion and splits are possible, even among Germans, then it is God's will that we Russians should pride ourselves on our ignorance of whether we are drifting in our opinions. The absence of theory deprives a revolutionary trend to the right to the existence and inevitability, condemns it sooner or later to political bankruptcy. In the opinion of socialist revolutionaries, however, the absence of theory is at most excellent thing, most favorably for unity. As you see, we cannot reach agreement with them, for the fact of the matter is that we speak different languages. There's one hope, perhaps, that we will be made to see reason by Mr. Stubb, who also more seriously speaks about the elimination of dogma and says that our business isn't the business of any bourgeois that appeals to the proletariat. It's not to disunite, but to unite. We will not, the socialist revolutionaries, ever see, with the help of Mr. Stubb, what is really signified by their stand of liberation from socialism for the purpose of unity, and unity on the occasion of liberation from socialism. What do you make of this, Lumpy? Because I know you've read this before.
Oh wow. Okay. Sorry, my brain.
I know. I read a lot. Yeah.
But I mean, like it's just all right. So this Struve guy, this is one of the German soc dems, but he mentions him a few times in different pieces. So he's like basically just saying like, look, like it's that whole thing of like who we can work with and how we can work with them and stuff like that. But like it's dangerous, like knowing, they're there for this, and like, can we even, can we really work with them on that if they're going to be hurting the, not basing their actions on theory, if they're against theory and stuff like that's just going to hurt us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's on the occasion of liberation from socialism. So
yeah. All right. Here's the meat and potatoes here. Let us go over the second point, the question of terrorism. In their defense of terrorism, which the experience of the Russian revolutionary movement has so clearly proved to be ineffective, the socialist revolutionaries are talking themselves blue in the face in asseverating that they recognize terrorism only in conjunction with work among the masses, and that therefore the arguments used by the Russian social democrats to refute the efficacy of this method of struggle, which have indeed been refuted for a long time to come, do not apply to them. Here's something very similar to their attitude towards criticism in repeating itself. We are not opportunists, cry the Rush socialist revolutionary, and at the same time, they are shelving the dogma of proletariat socialism for reasons of sheer opportunist criticism and no other. We are not repeating the terrorists' mistakes, and we are not diverting attention from work among the masses. The socialist revolution assures us, at the same time enthusiastically recommends the party acts such as Bazimov's assassination, although everyone knows and sees perfectly well that this act was in no way connected with the masses, and, moreover, could not have been by reason of the very way in which it was carried out. A person who committed this terrorist act neither counted on nor hoped for any definite action or support on the part of the masses. In their naivety, the socialist revolutionaries do not realize that their predilection for terrorism is casually most intimately linked with the fact that from the very onset they have always kept and still keep aloof from the working class movement, while even attempting to become a party of the revolutionary class which is waging its class struggle. Yeah, Luigi, if this is the guy who did it, right, is not, there's no indication so far, there's no evidence so far that what he did was in hope that there would be like a mass uprising. You know what I mean? And even if that was written, Big Dog was like, all right, well, I'm going to jail anyway. You know what I mean? A revolutionary, and we learned this from Huey P. Newton, you don't want to just get your dumbass thrown in jail. You don't want to just get your dumbass killed. That's suicide. That's against revolutionary suicide. You have to put yourself in the fight. So if you do something, which we would never encourage, you cannot just be chilling at the McDonald's waiting to get arrested. It's just. All right. Let's round it out because we're over an hour here now. Let's see where we're at. I'm just gonna pick a sentence. Although everyone knows this, he's perfectly well, this act was not no way connected to the masses. And moral. All right, here we go. Socialist revolutionaries do not realize that their predilection for terrorism is casually most intimately linked with the fact that from the very onset they have always kept and still keep aloof from the working class movement, while even attempting to become a party of the revolutionary class in waging class struggle. Over ardent protestations very often lead one to doubt and suspect the worth of whatever it is that requires such strong seasoning. Do not these proletarians worry them? I often think of these words, and when I read assurances by the socialist revolutionaries by terrorism, we are not relegating work among the masses in the background. After all, these assurances come from the very people who have already drifted away from social democrats' labor movement, which really roused the masses. They come from people who are continuing to drift away from this movement, clutching at fragments of any kind of theory. The leaflet issued by the Party Social Revolutionaries, April 3rd, 1902, may serve as a splendid illustration of what has been stated above. It is most realistic source. One is very close to the immediate leaders, a most authentic source. The presentation of the question of terrorist struggle is a leaflet concedes in full, also with the party views, according to the valuable testimony of Revolutionary Naya Razia, or whatever the hell you say that. April's third leaflet follows the pattern of the terrorists' latest arguments with remarkable accuracy. The first thing that strikes the eye is the words, "We advocate terrorism, not in the place of work among the masses, but previously for and simultaneously with that work." They strike the eye particularly because these words are printed in letters 3 times as large as the rest of the text, a device, of course, that is repeated by the RR. It is all really so simple. One has only set not the place of, but together with, in bold type, with whole arguments of social democrats, all that history has taught will fall to the ground. But just read the whole leaflet, and you will see the present protestation in bold type and take the name of the masses in vain. The day when the working people will emerge from the shadows and the mighty popular wave will shatter the iron gates to smithereens, alas, literally alas, is still a long way off, and it's frightful to think of the future toll of victims. Do not these words, alas, still a long way off, reflect an utter failure to understand the mass movement and a lack of faith in it? It is not arguments meant as a deliberate sneer at the fact that the working people are already beginning to rise. And finally, even if this trite argument were just as well founded, it is actually stuff and nonsense. What would emerge from its particularly bold relief would be the inefficiency of terrorism, for without the working people, all bombs are powerless, patently powerless.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can throw as many bombs as you want. You can wipe out as many CEOs as you want. You can rob a bank. You could steal stuff from the National Guard Armory. But if you are not actively working and building a mass party, a Marxist mass party, in order to have the masses, side with you, you're just not going to win. You will never do enough alone. This is a movement that requires unity amongst your comrades.
Yes, when the
Mhm.
Bolsheviks robbed a bank, they used it for the party and to use it for revolutionary means. They didn't use it for themselves. It wasn't a self-ish act. It was for the party. So I just want to throw that in there. But it's amazing that they, like, a couple of paragraphs above, they're like, we're not terrorists. They're terrorists. What we're doing is the same thing, but we're not doing as terrorists. Like, no, like you're doing, like, and this is the whole thing. If you're gonna do an act like that, you have to, you own it. If you're doing an act like that, you're going to you're going to get in trouble for it. Like, you have to understand what the consequences are on the other end too. And just to sit there and go, yeah, I mean, people are cheering on someone that murders a CEO, but that person, I mean, something, if they truly get caught, because I'm under the same belief that I don't really believe at this point that Luigi is the person, is going to suffer consequences. And now, right now, like, if Luigi isn't the person, he's suffering consequences for something he didn't do then. So
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You not only have to organize the proletariat, but you have to protect the proletariat.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, again, it's just adventurism, it's just terrorism. And again, it's funny in this case, fuck that CEO, right? But it doesn't, we're not anywhere closer to revolutionary action. That's
class
basically
consciousness.
or class consciousness. Exactly. And that I really hate, like, we talked about last week, these videos of people basically being like, it's here, something's happening. No, you don't know enough about fascism. I'm telling you right now, you don't, because the same thing was happening, right before, the Nazis took power. I'm sure there was naive socialists in Germany being like, it's here, it's happening. And then it's like, oh shit, like, never mind.
No, it's exactly what was happening. That was
Also,
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Also, this situation, it cannot be taken seriously either, because if you go in the fucking TikTok store, you can see Luigi merch, like, like coming out, all over the place. Him as a saint, which is cringe as hell. Like, brother, the other capitalists are they're balling on each other right now because they're still making money. This is a good situation for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
The stock went up that day. The stock for United Healthcare went up the day that
exactly.
This happened. People made money that already had money off of this. So yeah,
like Burger King made an ad because he got caught in McDonald's. Like, we don't snitch. Like, that just it's good advertising.
Exactly. Burger King doesn't snitch. They just don't pay their workers livable wage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go fuck yourself. Like, you're not like doing anything. But I think, anywho's this wraps it up. We've been yapping for a minute. If you're not in the collective Discord server, you can DM the YouTube channel, or you can find me on TikTok, Ivan De La Rosa 1917. If you want to get in there, leave a comment or whatever.
Yeah.
And we can arrange something if you want to come yap more with other communists, socialists, etc. I've got a couple of things in the work right now. Got a video shout out to Comrade Ash on human nature and how human nature is subjective. It's a piece that's meant to argue against the communism will never work because human nature nonsense. We got a video and a special podcast episode cooking up right now about veterans, people who have fought for the United States, who are now Marxists and socialists. Their transition to that, what it meant to them, what they learned, etc. We'll probably take a little bit of a break at the end of December. And then we have a super special guest coming on January 3rd, but we'll talk about that later. But anyway, gang, you're always a guest here. You love to stream, then keep coming here. Get rid of this goofy ass Machiavellian nonsense. Be a Marxist, I promise you.
Yeah.
Like, your whole thing about I can't feel empathy, bro. Get out of here with that. Come on, give yourself more credit. If it's not Marxist, then it's incorrect. It depends. Marx, you could be a Marxist and take other elements of different ideologies that aid in Marxism, such as like, anti-colonialism, anti-patriarchy, anti-white supremacy. But like, you can't be like a Marxist and like, a capitalist. That doesn't make sense. A Marxist and a libertarian. Like that doesn't make sense. But stick around. All right. Anyway, we're gone, gang. If you want to yap with us, find us on Discord, find us on TikTok. Bye.